It's weird to think that the MonsterVerse has been going on now for a decade. It feels like just yesterday that I was checking the IMDB page for the then in development 2014 Godzilla film, hoping to see any updates whatsoever. Throughout the lifespan of the MonsterVerse, we've been introduced to new titans and reintroduced to some old faces. However, there's a decent amount of titans that were left on the cutting room floor, so that's what we'll be going over today. These are the scrap titans of the MonsterVerse. Rachmatul is a kaiju that was designed for the 2014 Godzilla film, but would ultimately end up getting scrapped in favor of the Mutos. Resembling Anguirus, Rachmatul has spikes along its armored body, with a crocodilian shape and a stegosaurus-like tail. There are some really awesome pieces of concept art that show Rachmatul battling Godzilla in San Francisco in Alcatraz. There was also another monster that would have fought Godzilla, and that was this pterodactyl-like monster, which looks a lot like a green Rodan. Not much is known about whether or not it would have teamed up with Rachmatul to battle Godzilla, or if it would have been hostile to both monsters. Overall, though, I'm not a huge fan of these designs. A lot of the original MonsterVerse titans just feel like cheap knockoffs of pre-existing Toho monsters, and it's evident that this was prevalent even before the MonsterVerse was officially established. This is quite literally just Anguirus and Rodan, but with a different name. Regardless, I think it is interesting how similar these two monsters are to the Mutos that appear in Godzilla 2014, with one being more of a brute and the other being an airborne threat. They both look really cool, but just aren't all that original. The multi-legged monster from the 2012 Godzilla Comic-Con teaser, often called Vishnu by fans, has no official name. The name Vishnu comes from Robert Oppenheimer's narration about Vishnu's multi-armed form as the camera pans over the creature's corpse. Described as a strange dead monster in Godzilla the Art of Destruction, it has 6 legs, a segmented body with ridges, and resembles a tardigrade. Director Gareth Edwards clarified that the creature was just a placeholder and was never intended for the final film. The idea was basically, hey, we're letting the audience know that there will be another monster in this and that it will be fighting Godzilla. A bunch of creatures were designed for Kong Skull Island, but were never actually included in the final cut of the film. Instead of spending forever on these, I'll just rattle them off since their names are kind of self-explanatory. We've got a big fish, some camouflaged birds, a cat-like creature with multiple tails, cave fishers, Dunkleosteus, a giant amphibious sea serpent, a giant elephant, a giant monkey that isn't Kong, I think, a giant river cobra, and a giant Venus flytrap. Shout out to Gojipedia for this list, by the way. Now, some of these monsters, like the giant river cobra, actually appeared in the novelization of Kong Skull Island, but were absent from the film. A lot of these are very generic, and I'm kind of glad that they were cut. I think the most interesting creature from this list is the Dunkleosteus. It's this prehistoric fish that actually existed from the late Devonian period, and I understand why it was cut. In an interview with Games Radar, Kong Skull Island director Jordan Vogt Roberts stated the following: "The first mandate for me was no dinosaurs. Jurassic World owns that as far as I'm concerned, and Peter Jackson's version did such a great job with that V-Rex fight. I'm not a big paleo nerd, so I don't want to mess something up and call the Dunkleosteus a dinosaur and accidentally piss off some nerds. I think the pronunciation is already pissing off some nerds, but regardless, it's a prehistoric animal, so I understand why it was cut." In 2 pieces of concept art for the final shot of Godzilla King of the Monsters, we can clearly see countless pre-existing kaiju circling around Godzilla. In one, we can see what looks like the Peter Jackson King Kong, as well as Gigan. There's also these 2 spider-like titans as well. In another, we can see Baragon, Kamacuras, Kamanga, and even Gamera. So, what's the deal here? Were all of these monsters actually going to appear in King of the Monsters? No. At this point in time during production, the crew hadn't yet come up with titans like Behemoth or Methuselah. As a result, they simply used Toho monsters as well as Kong and Gamera as placeholders rather than actually considering them to appear. Regardless, these are really awesome pieces of concept art, but I just wish that there were higher resolution scans of these images available online. Shimida is an unused monster that was supposed to appear in Godzilla vs. Kong. It is sort of this mix of a shrimp, a mole rat, a Venus flytrap, and a deep sea fish. It has 6 legs, 2 large insect arms, very saggy skin, and a flower-like mouth that was used to trap prey by blending into the terrain. Personally, I love this concept. It reminds me of something that would have appeared in the 2005 Peter Jackson King Kong film. There's this awesome piece of storyboard art where a soldier is shown unknowingly standing on the creature's mouth trap before being brutally and quickly consumed by the beast. I have no idea how or where this would have been used in the film. There really weren't any scenes of soldiers navigating through Hollow Earth. Part of me wonders if there were plans for a subplot where there were these team of soldiers that were sent down to Hollow Earth with the human characters by Apex Cybernetics, only for them all to just suffer a gruesome fate. But that part is pure speculation. Otherwise, I have no clue. In a Reddit AMA, Godzilla vs. Kong director Adam Wingard was asked the following question by a now deleted user. Are there any other Titans from the previous movies scheduled to appear? What is their role? I saw the concept art for Mothra. Are you planning to let her appear? What is her role? Adam Wingard responded to this question by stating, no other pre-existing Titans were ever seriously considered, but we created quite a few that were going to show up in Hollow Earth that we didn't get a chance to show. My favorite was one we called Swamp Kitty. Maybe he'll make it if there's a sequel. There's hardly any information out there about Swamp Kitty. We don't have any concept art or really anything beyond it just being mentioned in this one instance. Swamp Kitty didn't appear in Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, which was the sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong, so who knows? It's entirely possible that Swamp Kitty was a Titan that was abandoned early on in development and didn't really fit into the story of New Empire, so it was scrapped there as well. Phosphora was a backup monster designed for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, in case Mothra's rights couldn't be secured. Though Mothra did in fact make it into the final film, Phosphora still appeared as a wall carving and a mural engraving in the Iwi Temple in Hollow Earth. During production, there were rumors that Phosphora was actually in the film and was received very poorly by test audiences. I actually remember hearing this rumor and being very upset that Mothra wasn't in this and they just had another knockoff kaiju. But director Adam Wingard clarified that Mothra was always intended to be a part of the movie. Honestly, I'm glad that Phosphora was replaced by Mothra. This character just doesn't seem all that interesting to me. And I'm sure that the fan backlash would have harmed the film as a whole, especially knowing that we could have gotten Mothra instead of whatever this is. Don't get me wrong, the design is kind of cool, but to me, it just feels too alien to be something from Earth, even Hollow Earth. I personally wouldn't mind seeing Phosphora in a future MonsterVerse installment, but it would be really neat to see them rework the backstory a bit to be different from Mothra. And with all that out of the way, I'm Cole McCormick, you're watching Firewind Media, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.